either clicked on this video because you're interested in buying property in Berlin, you're just curious to see what you can buy in Berlin, or you're just out here supporting your girl, and if that's the case, I love you and thank you. I spent the last few days going around Berlin and touring 3 different apartments that are currently up for grabs. We've got one in the district of Wedding, one in Friedrichshain, and one in the heart of Berlin, Mitte. They range in sizing and pricing, so without further ado, let's get into the first episode of Buying in Berlin. Right, so I've just arrived at Leopoldplatz. First impressions, I'm not sure. I'm just freezing, to be honest. It's like 1 degree Celsius right now, but I do still have about a 10-minute walk to the actual apartment. So I'm checking out the area, but I feel like this is not directly the area that you would be living in. I do think though that everything looks a little less exciting and nice in the winter, so I guess keep that in mind when you're watching this video. Let's start off by talking about the area. So Wedding is a pretty down-to-earth district in Berlin that's all about diversity and character. It's not as polished as some other areas, but that's part of its charm. You've got a mix of cultures everywhere, local German spots right next to international restaurants and markets, especially around places like Leopoldplatz. Okay guys, but this apartment was actually unreal. It's a 4-room, 133 square meter flat located on the 4th floor of an Altbau built in 1904. Starting from the entrance to your right, you basically have a fake door that's just for staging, as this apartment is actually 2 separate apartments joined together. So as soon as you enter, you have a pretty large and airy room to your left, which could be used as either a bedroom, office, playroom, and I mean, honestly, the list goes on because remember, we have 4 entire rooms in this place, which is a blessing in Berlin. What's also really fantastic is that the apartment has 3 balconies, one of which is in this first room. Now moving on to the kitchen, which is also very spacious and has that typical Berlin style to it. The kitchen is modern, well maintained, and it has an oven, dishwasher, and plenty of electrical outlets, which is always very convenient. Now, here's the really interesting part. So apparently, German homes used to have these long bathrooms, but what's been done here is that a wall has been built in order to create a separate small pantry to complement the kitchen, which is actually very unexpected, but a nice surprise. Love me some extra pantry space. Continuing out of the kitchen, we have one of many hallways. I got lost in here, guys. I'm not even lying. Also, can I just say, since when is exposed brick a thing in Berlin? Because I saw a lot of it the last few days, and I'm kind of loving it. Anyway, in the hallway, you do have a touch of exposed brick on the ceiling that you pass by on your way to the next room. And as you can see, here on your left is the rest of that old long bathroom situation that I was telling you about. And now it's just a space for extra storage, which as always is extremely useful. So then we come to the next room, which I assume would most likely be used as either a bedroom or some type of workroom. What I absolutely love about this entire apartment is the stucco design. It has a row of beautiful flowers and dragonflies. The details are simple, but it's so elegant, creating a natural decorative look that really adds charm to the space. You can see a similar effect on the lighting fixtures, which gives the ceiling a nice old-fashioned touch to make the space feel even more stylish and vintage. And in this room is where you find the second balcony, which again is a super nice space to have. Next, we walk across to another hallway where you are greeted by 2 bathrooms right next to each other. I'm not gonna lie, I did find this slightly strange, but hey, one of them has a shower and the other a bathtub, so you've got all the options you'll ever need. Either way, both bathrooms are spacious and both equipped with a toilet and a sink as well. Actually, this could be a great place for not only a family, but also a flat share. And finally, we come to the last 2 rooms. On the left, we find a pretty large room similar to the other 2 we have already seen, with 2 large windows and the third balcony, which even has coverage over it. And that is super convenient, as we all know, weather in Berlin can be very unpredictable. In the far corner, you can also see that there used to be some sort of old oven fireplace type of situation, which is kind of cool because you have that vintage touch of old markings. Finally, we enter the last room and the largest of them all, which is at the very end of the apartment. Here, the biggest standout feature is the exposed brick wall, which once again, I did not know was a thing in Berlin, but here we are. I absolutely love this room. It's extremely spacious, and I can envision having either a large master bedroom in here or even a living space. The view though isn't all that exciting, unfortunately, as you are facing the back of the courtyard, but the bonus part is that it's extremely quiet, so you'd most likely get excellent sleep quality in here. I'm also obsessed with the amazing wooden floors that have been kept well throughout the entire apartment. So you may be asking yourself, okay, great, Olive, but how much does one need in order to afford a place like this? Well, this listing is currently on the market for 700,000 euro, which is 5,236 euro per square meter, which may seem slightly on the higher side considering the area it's in. However, the amount of space you get is undoubtedly amazing.
It is the next day and I'm off to see another apartment. This one is in Mitte near Rosenthaler Platz, very, very central. It is 10 degrees warmer than it was yesterday, you guys, but it's drizzling today, so that's fun. Got my little cave here. Anyway, this place is a lot smaller than the one we saw yesterday. It only has 2 rooms and it's around 32 square meters.
It's no brainer that Mitte is a very hyped place to be. You're essentially in the heart of the city and pretty much everything is at arm's reach. It's home to iconic landmarks like the Brandenburg Gate, Museum Island, and Alexanderplatz, but also trendy shops, galleries, and cafes that keep the area super lively. You'll also find a mix of historic charm with cobblestone streets in the middle of the hustle and bustle, and public transport isn't even a question as it's basically all around you and accessible at all times of the day. This apartment is a lot smaller at 32 square meters with only 2 rooms, and it's located on the 2nd floor of an Altbau built in 1900. As soon as you enter, you are greeted with 2 separate rooms. The one on the left is the smaller one with a single window, but still a relatively bright room. The apartment does have wooden floors throughout. However, I'm assuming they must have been somewhat damaged in this specific room, hence why the flooring has been altered. It is a small space, but there's definitely enough area for a double bed, or you could even opt for it being an office space. Moving on to the main room, which has 2 large windows, plenty of light, and nice wooden floors. Again, this could be a living area, or perhaps for a single person, you could turn it into a studio space with a pull-out bed and then have your office space in the adjacent room. Unfortunately, the view isn't the best as you are directly facing a building, but again, on the positive side, it is an extremely quiet space, although you are located directly in the center of a busy city. Right next to the main room is where you'll find the kitchen and bathroom. Yep, that is right. Walking out of the bathroom brings you straight into the kitchen, which isn't ideal, but I suppose there are ways to reconstruct the rooms to avoid that. The kitchen is a decent size though, considering the square footage of the apartment, and although it's not the most modern, it has been well maintained. Obviously though, this can all be changed and redesigned later on. And finally, there's the bathroom, which is quite compact. A shower might have been a more practical choice here instead of a bathtub, but it's nice to have the flexibility to enjoy either one. The bathroom is generally a bit outdated. However, of course, you'd have the freedom to redesign things as you wish once the place is yours. So this listing has a current asking price of 210,000 euro at 6,522 euro per square meter, which is pretty expected for this area.
So it's a little bit later on in the day and I've shifted to a different area of Berlin. We are now in Friedrichshain. I always say that, I find that so hard to say. Friedrichshain, you get me? And we're gonna be seeing a studio. This one is also around 30 square meters. Let's head over there now and check it out. It's actually in a very nice area. It's walking distance from the Stadtwoche S-Bahn. Definitely said that wrong as well, 100%. Need to get better at my German pronunciations. I heard it's got a lot of brick walls. It's also partly furnished. Also, I feel like this is a big moment in Berlin in November. The sun has come out. The weather is kind of summering, even though it's end of November, so I'm kind of loving it. Can it please just stay like this?
Friedrichshain is the first district I lived in when I first moved to Berlin, so it will always hold a little bit of a special place in my heart. It's definitely one of Berlin's cooler neighborhoods, packed with creative energy and a very laid-back vibe. It's famous for its street art, gritty charm, and hotspots like the East Side Gallery and a long stretch of the Berlin Wall covered in colorful murals. The final studio apartment is the smallest of the lot at 31 square meter, which to be fair is only around 1-ish square meter less than the previous one we saw in Mitte. However, because it has more of a studio layout, it does feel a little tighter, but nevertheless, this apartment has really good vibes, which I instantly felt as soon as I stepped inside. As soon as you get into the building, you're greeted by a stylish black and white tile design, giving off a very modern and freshly renovated feel. And I mean, since it is Friedrichshain, of course, there's also a little bit of graffiti going on. As you step into the studio, you are greeted by a surprisingly spacious bathroom with a full bathtub, shower, and a sink. It's clear that the apartment, built in 1920, has been well maintained over the years, preserving its charm and functionality. Now onto the main space, which you'll reach after passing through some beautiful exposed brick. Honestly, I've never seen this much exposed brick in Berlin. I'm so blown away in the best way possible, guys. The main area is well spread with a bright window on the far end facing the courtyard. It's partly furnished actually, as the place has until now been listed for short-term stays, so you do have the option to purchase it with or without furniture. The current setup for the main space divides it into a bedroom and living area, but a great alternative could be building a lofted bed perhaps. This would free up space underneath for a mini office area, which is actually a very clever solution, often seen in smaller Berlin apartments. In fact, one of my closest friends has this exact layout in her own apartment in Mitte. Finally, we have the kitchen, which has a small step up, and while compact, it fits the space quite well. It even has an extra window to bring in some more natural light and a cozy dining area. The flooring changes here to tile, which is super practical and actually easier to clean. And also, I've got to mention that I've never seen such a tiny washing machine before. It's honestly fascinating. Has anyone else come across something like this? If you have, definitely let me know. All in all, this apartment is currently listed for 175,000 euro, which is 5,647 euro per square meter. So what do you think? Which one sparks your interest the most, and which one could you see yourself potentially living in or investing in? I would absolutely love to hear your ideas on how you'd imagine the layout and decorate the spaces. It's always so fun to think about how you'd personalize each room. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already, so that you can stay up to date with new videos every single week. I cover everything about living in Berlin, from rentals and apartment tours to diving into the world of buying property. So if you're enjoying the content, give this video a like, and I will see you in the next one.